Welcome, everyone. This is once again your host, Shailesh from New Zealand World News, and we are going to do a topic today called economy, which is the most burning topic of today. And economy is what is the big question.
Yeah.
And economy is what I will once again stress the point today that we are doing is economy. Economy is a topic which affects every single person, no matter which position, which level you are. And what is economy is $1 million question for many people. So today we have got with us a chartered accountant, Mr. Abhimanyu Srikande from Christchurch. He's a business advisor, he's a tax consultant, he's also a business, what they call it, growth of businesses, and also giving suggestions, opinions of what sort of businesses when you deal with, or even as an individual, when you come as a tax consultant, well, you want to save tax or you want to maximize, minimize everything with your taxation. That's one aspect of it. But how does that affects that tax also affects the economy that we live in, and how the government, how the current government looks at the economy, how everybody wants to solve economy, but what are they solving? Economy means what is a very mind-boggling question. So we are going to dwell today on this topic called economy. And I have the pleasure of inviting the guest speaker, Abhimanyu, as I said before, which he will be discussing with us and talking to us, giving us a good insights about the word economy, but also giving a good comparison of the policies that the government wants to implement to reduce and to grow the economy. So what is growing the economy? What is stagnant economy? What is when the economy goes down? What happens? What are the effects? Little bit as a normal man, as a common man, how does it affect us? Because business people will always have their economy depend on the economy that they thrive or that they grow or that they want to expand. But for a normal person, even for basic things, when the economy is not doing good, we are affected the most because we don't have anything to do, anything to spend. And we haven't got much options as a common man because our taxation is so standard and static that we have to pay irrespective of whatever we are into. The government takes the tax from us automatically. So how do we deal with this? How do we manage in this economy that we are currently facing? There is a current cost of living crisis, and everybody's talking about inflation. Everybody's talking about the bank rates and the mortgages that we are all tied in with our businesses and with our personal mortgages. So without further any discussions, I'm going to get straight into it and straight into go to Abhimanyu for his views. First 2 minutes comments of his of what is economy and how do we see economy for common men like me, like you, like others, and all the listeners.
Oh, thank you, Shail. Thank you, Shailesh, for the lovely introduction and having me. So yeah, great concepts, and now it's very topical, right? So it's a good time for us to be having this discussion. And in my role, like dealing with business owners or individuals, taxes, and it's a good opportunity for me to like see what's happening on the at the grassroots level, like day to day, how it affects people. So yeah, you're right. Like we hear all of these buzzwords on the news, right? Like the cost of living, economy, growth, inflation, but what does all of this basically mean for the common person, right? So
Yeah,
basically, like, I mean, economy is a real part of like the world at the moment, isn't it? Like, there's a whole lot of factors affecting us: international, domestic,
right.
seasonal. So
Yeah,
basically, like, economy is basically all the economic activity that's happening in the country, and there's many different definitions, ways of looking at it. But basically, from like if you break it down to a common, like simple term, is basically like any business or commercial activity that is happening, right?
yeah, yeah.
So eventually, if you look over time, unless the economy is growing, that as if we're doing more things, more productive things,
Yeah.
it's hard to get the growth factor, right? Otherwise, if things stop growing, then we just stagnate.
Mm.
So if you stagnate but other countries are growing, then in comparison, we'll be going backwards, right?
Mm.
So that is something that we need to focus on. And yeah, I mean, we
Yeah,
have some level of control, I guess, in a way that we can do what we can. The
yeah,
government is there to look at the overall bigger picture and they try to get policies in place. But I think as an individual, what we can do, or as a business owner, what we can do is make try and be as well informed as possible, so
Mm.
we can be ready for the changes that are coming. Because the change is like a constant that's going to happen regardless. So we just need to like be well informed,
Yeah.
so we can react properly to those changes rather than wait for them to happen and then find out that hey, we are struggling.
Mm.
We rather look forward and be prepared.
Mm. So do you think that the growth that everybody is looking for, or the changes that keeps happening, do you think that the growth means like when you move from, because when you are in a job as a common man, what sort of growth they can expect is only when the company grows, they will grow by wages. So they will
Yeah.
get more wages and then they can say they are growing. But
Mm-hmm.
if they don't get wages, then they are not growing individually. But the
Yeah.
company may grow and the
Mm-hmm.
economy grows with the company as well, not just individuals, but also the company grows, then the individual grows. So how do you see, throw some light on with your experience in terms of businesses, when they grow, they can pay more to the people that they employ, but
Yeah.
also the dynamics of individual growth,
Yes.
contribution to them, because they contribute by way of taxes. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I wanted to just.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very like broad topic, right? So I think
Yeah.
interesting to I like to break it down into
Mhm.
say two types of growth, right? Like one's the physical like growth in quantity. So
Mm.
say previously we were making 100 sweaters a day. So
Yeah.
then if you start making 110 or 120 sweaters a day, that's one form of growth, right? We're actually just making
Yeah.
more of things.
Yeah.
The other kind of growth could also be like productivity, right? So instead of spending 8 hours to do something, we
Yeah.
are doing it in 7 hours. So
Mm.
then our value to time ratio is actually improved, right? So that might be another way to look at it.
You bet.
The,
Yeah.
and this yeah, so that's an interesting way. What we can do as individuals is like we
Mm.
can contribute to that company growth,
Mm.
or we can make things more productive, efficient, which then frees up more time to do other things. So
Yes.
that's kind of like innovative growth, which eventually will lead to overall economy growth. And I think like as the whole economy grows, everyone benefits, right? Like
Yeah.
imagine like there's a high tide. When it comes in, all the boats raise up.
Yep.
So you
Yeah.
sort of take the whole sort of country along, right? Like it benefits everyone by growing sustainably, efficiently. And
Yeah.
when we're growing the economy, we're creating more opportunities. So in that way, we can also create more resources to do things
Mm.
that we need to invest in. So it's not just that we're growing to earn more money. It could also mean that we're actually utilizing those
Mm.
resources and advancing other
Mm.
aspects of the country life, right? So it's not just like
Yeah.
making money, looking at the bottom line when you're sort of running a country. I think it's like you're also
Yeah.
looking at other factors, development, long-term issues. So if you have the economy and the wealth to invest, you can use that and work it in well together.
Yeah, recently I heard a very good phrase from one of the international countries. They were saying, why everybody individually should not look at how long or how many years they are going to live, but how healthy and how better they're going to live every day.
Yes, correct.
That was
Yeah,
a
there's
very
some.
good concept. And then when you look at it from
Yeah.
that, so what is the health of the economy today?
Mm-hmm.
See in New Zealand, particularly when we look at New Zealand economy, what is your view and opinion on the growth or the stability or the health of the economy?
Yeah, I think like there's a lot of like mixed reviews coming through, right? Like you
Yeah,
talk to some people and they're saying, it's great, but at
correct.
least for the clients that I've been speaking to on the ground, like
Mhm.
some businesses are like, doing okay, but I can see there's a bit of a change and a shift in terms of the uncertainty. They're just not sure. They're not very confident that, hey, things are getting better, because everyone's like, that's a reality. Like costs have gone up. There've been a range of reasons that have been affecting all of those things. But I think overall, like there's a bit of like uncertainty. Elections always, there's
Yeah.
always a time of uncertainty.
Mm.
But yeah, overall, we've been finding businesses a lot more circumspect. They're a bit tentative. So yeah,
So that's one
overall,
way.
they're
Yeah, one way of your experiences with the clients, and then the other way that we wanted to, have you done some analysis in terms of the policies of various political parties or the two major political parties, how they
yeah.
how they are looking at it when you compare your clients with them, with those policies, does
Mm-hmm.
that make any resembles, resonates, or relevance, or does that make any sense when it comes to talk about economy or about these two political parties talking about it?
Yeah, that's interesting. We actually discussed this with a few clients, and some of
Ah,
them thought they were leaning sort of extreme in either or way, but actually talking through some of the values and things, they actually ended up thinking that, hey, actually, we are more towards the center than we thought. So,
yeah,
that's like a similar thing when we look at some of the policies as well, right? Like
right.
you look through the details, like some of the core principles are like, very realistic. It's great. I
Mm,
think it'll sort of come down to
okay,
how it's actually action. So there's
okay.
one thing to have those like policies and broad goals, but to what extent are they actually implemented and how much of it actually reaches the grassroots business level?
True,
I
true.
mean, in general, they've been like, national sort of always been like, oh, we'll all focus on businesses. I think labor's got the traditional thing about, oh, we'll look after the employee or
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
like basic tendency. But I
Mm,
think, yeah, looking into those policies, I think, yeah, business owners are maybe a little bit more supportive of national by the sounds of it at the moment.
mm.
And I think that just comes down to the fact that they just think national's going to be supporting them more like in a business way.
Mm.
So I think it's rather than just the policies, it's also a bit of that mental
Absolutely.
comfort thinking that, oh, actually, they've got my back. Like, regardless of the policies, they'll kind of look
Yeah,
after us, keep us as a priority. So, I mean, that's an interesting thing as a voter or person to like actually see what the policies actually mean
mm.
and how is it going to actually affect you day to day.
Right, right, right. Okay.
Mm.
So do
And
you have some sort of analysis done on the policies that you can share with us?
oh yes, yeah, we'll bring it up.
Mm. Then we can talk a little bit more, and then I will ask you a little bit more. I wanted to understand from a common man's perspective, who are all listeners.
Yes, yep. So we'll bring
Mhm.
it up, and then yeah, you've got a bit of experience in that field as well, so it'll be great to have a discussion
Yeah,
on it. We
yeah.
can work through that.
So I can see what you have said: economic policies, social policies, and environmental
Hmm.
policies, which they go pretty much hand in hand. And this is where the economy is also derived from. As you said before, there are a lot of activities that really contributes
Yeah.
when you want to talk about economy. And
Hmm.
economy is not just one thing, not just health, not just housing, not just these, but it's everything, right? That we want as a common man.
Yeah.
So let's talk, as you have done here, economics. So investments, in healthcare, education,
Yeah.
businesses, affordable
Correct.
housing policies about the labor,
Yeah.
and then tax cuts and simplification, reduce regulations, more private sector role. This is what the nationalist definition of how to grow the economy or how to make the economy back on track or faster. And Act has also said that flat tax, remove CGT, deregulation, reduce governing government spending, and not listed as a key priority. Green, I understand that.
Hmm.
But so when it comes to the major two political parties that they are want to do or they want to bring back the economy to a healthy, at the
Yeah.
moment, they may think that the economy after the last 6 years, particularly after the pandemic that we had for 2 years, and then we had lots of other natural disasters in the country, and
Yes.
the economy has gone down. So why economy has gone down? It may be because of the borrowings that we have. So that means our balance sheet is not that great in terms of
Hmm.
that. However, borrowing is not bad thing as long as it is spent on the best thing where the economy can be brought back. So in your view, when you look at and when you have compared this, and
Yeah.
when you talk to your clients for businesses and people who are normal individuals who are self-employed, is I always say that 90 to 95% people are in the small sector that
Yeah.
in,
Yes.
and out of that 60 to 70 are all in the vicinity of self-employed or single owners,
Yes.
or very 1 to 5 employee owner employers. So from that angle, when you talk to these clients, because these are the clients who really contribute, even though they are small, they make a larger portion of the
Yeah.
economy. and they contribute to the larger portion of the economy. So when you look at from that point of view, what are your views and thoughts in terms of these political parties that have come up with policies? Will it
Yeah.
really matter to the common man, or what does it mean to the common man, all these things really speak?
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Like when you look at it, I think like, yes, let's start with labor, right? Investment in
Yep.
healthcare, education, small businesses, right?
Mm.
Who doesn't want that, right? They're,
Absolutely. Yeah.
they're all good things.
Mm.
But the question is definitely like we're coming off a pandemic, right? And
Mm.
that has definitely brought up some issues. So, I mean,
Yeah.
if you ask me, I think those are great policies as such. But again, like we mentioned before, it's actually the implementation. Like, how do we actually most efficiently get
Correct.
the and get the best result for it, right? Because pouring money into it, it looks good for showing, oh, we've done so much,
Mm.
but what have we actually got back for that? Like you
You're talking about the outcomes. You are talking.
outcome exactly. So it's more like a sort of outcome driven thing. Like the policy itself is great, but you also want to see results coming out of it, not just money being spent, right? Like, are we actually like what is the policy? Are we building more hospitals,
Yep.
better facilities, faster treatment? So you
Mm.
gotta like have get results for that. Are
Mm.
we having actually a healthcare system that is keeping people happy, right? And then also like it's a bit of a cause and symptom situation as well, right? What is leading to those
Mm.
issues rather than tweak the symptoms. Let's just actually focus on the causes, and then we
Mm.
might not need to invest so much, right? We might be able to do a two-pronged approach there. So education as well, same thing, right? Like, we need to focus on that, right? The future generation. If we ignore that, we're not gonna have a
Yeah.
well-educated generation coming through. Small businesses, like you mentioned, definitely like being the backbone of the economy. There's so many small businesses, entrepreneurs who
Mm.
take the risk, jump out on their own. We really need to like look after them. Like
Mm.
that first year of business is the toughest for any new business startup, right? They say
Uh-huh.
you're the highest risk of the business not succeeding in that first year. And
Yeah.
then if you make it past that 3 year mark, then you've got a much better chance of, running the business successfully. So I think investing in those small businesses who take the risk, who are creating those employment opportunities,
Mm.
giving them that stability or confidence to actually do that and saying,
Mm.
like, of course you got to tax that as is part of the economy, but providing that little bit of support that you can to
Mm.
get them through that first setup phase will be really crucial. So, I mean, actually, if they deliver on all of those, that'll be like a fantastic way to go about it rather than just saying,
Mm.
oh, okay, there's some quick fixes like tax cuts, simplification, reduce regulations, more private sector role, which is also like, it's good quick fixes. Like people will have a bit of extra cash, so you can see where
Mm.
that is going. It'll definitely help the people, once we talk about tax, like in terms of the lower income earners, having a little bit extra cash makes more difference to them, right?
Mm.
So that'll be really helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, these are all broad strokes, right? It's
Mm.
in details that, and the other thing to consider will also be that, hey, it's an election coming, but we're probably not going to see these changes happen in October or November or even December, right? Like
Mm.
the new party is going to
The
come
new
in, gonna
parties.
take
Yeah.
some time to settle down, and
Yeah.
then we're going to have maybe a policy change, probably like, we don't know, like next year or the year after. So those
Yeah.
are,
Some might be April, some might be July, some might be,
yeah,
some further
exactly
down the track. Yeah, we don't know.
correct. So it's
Correct.
not like, we have the election and suddenly we have like better healthcare by December, or suddenly you have like major tax changes and simplification things happening. Like it's going to be a bit of a stepped process. So we need to keep that in mind as well. So without pushing the panic button, it's all about like just seeing what's coming up. Act, I think like some of those changes, they're like interesting like options, but
Mm.
they might take more legislation or change to the system. So it'll be interesting to see if,
Mm.
say a lot of people are saying national act probably have a good chance of making a coalition. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works,
Mm.
and yeah,
So,
how much they
I
get
see.
in.
Also, I mean, from a political angle and from a legislation angle, there are lots of things that they want to do, like even to remove certain things or even to regulate certain things. There is a lot of time-consuming effort and process,
Oh,
and
definitely. Yeah,
so it's not going to have overnight, I guess, unless
correct.
you have got a complete majority and agreement with every
Hmm.
political political party.
Exactly. And I think some of that legislation also needs to be like thought through and like I mean, put through correctly, right? Because like,
Yeah.
if you rush into something and then there's always like a chance of being a loophole, which is unintentional. And then, it's sort of generally in context, it tends to benefit people who have money and like rich people who can pay consultants to find ways through it.
Correct.
So yeah, it's just making sure that, all the changes are actually worth putting
Yeah.
it through and getting it all checked out correctly before actually implementing it.
Yeah.
And I think the greens is like an interesting one, like not listed as a key priority, but I mean, I guess it's a reality, right? You can't just ignore the economy because eventually, like, if the economy, like we said, like if the economy is growing, we actually got money and funds to action things. But if you're really struggling and you just don't have the money to spend on infrastructure or anything else, then it becomes a bit of a real challenge for the government to action anything.
Yeah. I guess from their point of view, what I have understood, Abhi, is, they are more focused on the reduction of inequalities. And that's why they brought some of the capital gain tax and wealth tax to fund the threshold of 10,000, which they want to implement, the first in tax. And for their way of looking at is more focused on inequality, how to reduce inequality. Whereas major parties like Labour, National, they want to actually get more focus on the economy, which affects the day-to-day life. So from a common man's point of view, I want to ask you, if suppose I want to ask you and you can tell me as a business advisor, is these policies or any are something like I've got two hands, are they taking from me one hand which I have to contribute and then giving me on another hand which they are giving me to give them back? Does that kind of resonates with you in terms of the economy when we talk about? Or is it the economy is a balancing act, or is economy is something that we want to do one way only or one-sided only, and then not worry about the other side? As you said, like, some parties, they don't care about the economy. They just look at the one aspect of it. But as a country, we want to provide everything. What's your view for common men who are listening? What is your view when we go to vote and when we don't understand, okay, they are, as you said, Labour Party is doing good investments in healthcare, education, which all we want again. And then tax cuts also we want. But then, what are we going to give or, deprive of? If we are giving this or if we are contributing towards it, what are we not going to get out of some of the political parties that they are coming up with policies where the common man should understand that, okay, are they going to give me, but are they going to reduce something from me that I was getting before? And that's
it's always a balancing act, right? Like, after all, it's like money has to come from somewhere, and the government's basically like taking taxes, but in the other way, you're sort of getting facilities back, right? Like security, the environment, infrastructure, hospitals, all of those things. I think, I mean, as citizens, we all need to pay our like share of tax, right? Like you said,
absolutely.
That's what's actually giving us the infrastructure back. So of course there'll be changes. I think like if you're focusing a little bit, like depends, different philosophies, right? Like one way to approach it is like, hey, if the economy is growing, you're making money, there's good business confidence, the tax collection is also going to be good anyway, right? Because the economy is growing, the confidence level is high, more jobs are being created, everyone's in work, everyone's feeling positive. So in that case, then if your economy is going well, you can actually invest in the infrastructure correctly because you have the funds, you can actually focus it, target it, get it done. Right. The other aspect is like it's nice to have principles there, but if you don't have the money, then it's going to be really tough. So, the ideas might be great, but how are you going to actually fund those projects? So that's the other question to look at. So I think there'll definitely be some changes, right? And I think in terms of society as well, there's different aspects we use, and it has to be on a certain level, right? Like some people might not use the medical facilities day to day, so they might be getting less use of it, but they're paying the same tax. So there's always like mismatches there. So you take giving by one hand, but not getting anything back, but you might be getting something else back as a society. So I think, if the economy is going well, then you've got the finances for it. But I think focusing purely on the economy might be, I think, is a bit of a mistake as well, right? Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like we still have to look after the people, be happy. So you need
So,
to
so
have a
as a
balance.
common man, if I have to understand, Abhi,
Mm-hmm.
that when you say that these are all investments are important, but
Yeah.
and it affects the economy if we don't
Mm-hmm.
do that, or if we do excess or if we do less, then it does affect the economy. As a
Yeah.
common man, if I want to understand, so what are the key aspects that I have to accept it, irrespective whether my likings or not liking, individual likings is there for everyone and for all the voters who are listening today. They
Mm-hmm.
know that they have to vote for certain policies. They know what they want from this. So if somebody is suffering from health, then he
Yeah.
wants to be looked after in health. Somebody is short of education, then he needs to be educated. Somebody
Yeah.
who doesn't have a house, he needs a house. And
Mm-hmm.
certain things, somebody is in business, he needs a support for businesses. So
Yeah.
every individual has got different needs and different wants, but these all are contributing factors to the economy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as a common man, what should we really say that, okay, compromise on certain things or not compromise on certain things, and look at only from an individual point of view, or we should be looking completely as a common man. Okay, if my neighbor is not deprived of something and I am getting something, then I need to look after him also, not just myself. But then I also need to make sure that there is no less inequality between me and the other person. But depending on all the aspects of it, when you look at it as a common man,
Mm-hmm.
how do we trust the policies that these political parties are coming up with?
Yeah.
As a common man, what's your view? How do
Well, I
you
think
tell us,
Well, I
basically?
think it's an interesting way, and you like different people you talk to. If you talk to 10 people, you'll get 10
Yeah,
different. So I mean, from that sense, I think it's from a business perspective. And I get a lot of this from the clients. Is like a lot of them said, actually, equality is funny, right? Like everyone's putting in different level of effort, different
mm,
level of risk. Everyone's appetite is different. The same way, like the
mm,
policy analysis that we're doing, it's more like just like analyzing it. We're not trying to tell
yeah,
what to vote for, right? It's more
yeah,
like
yeah.
what are the pros and cons, and then
What are the
people can
pros and
make
cons?
their decision. So
Absolutely.
I think equality of opportunities is a great thing. Like making sure that there are no barriers, there's no unevenness in terms of having the opportunity to do something.
Mm.
But I mean, practically, is it possible to achieve equality? I mean, I think it's really difficult, right? Because
No, it is.
everyone
It is
has a different work ethic. Some people will be happy to work 20 hours a
correct.
day, some just work 8. So
Correct.
what it's not comparable that they should both get paid the same, for example. It's just, but both of them have the same opportunity. There's no segregation based on other factors. That's all you can ask for as from society, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think in that context, you just have to like break down, looking at those policies as well. Like labor, like for example, has got investment in healthcare, but National also has, like, they've been talking all about reducing wait times, right?
Mm.
So that's a different thing. Like, one way is you might go tax cuts, but
Mm.
another option is labor has done like supporting them through COVID with extra payments.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does come down to that consistency, equality.
Mm.
And yeah, actually, it's I think this election is going to come down to people's confidence and trust in
Correct.
who can actually get the job done for us,
Absolutely.
right? It's about the delivery aspect. Like,
Yeah.
we can
That,
talk about it all day or 3 years, but who actually is going to get more done more efficiently? Because you might have slightly less, like, maybe your policies aren't, 100% ideal, but if
mm.
at least you get them done, you've achieved more than, say, promising the world, but
Yeah.
not delivering at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from a voter's perspective, that's where I'd be sort of leaning, is like, okay, let's go beyond just what the words say. Who's actually got the infrastructure and like the party support, or actually getting work done?
Mm.
That's gonna help us, because yeah, it is tough times economically. So yeah, we need to get the economy focus on it as well this election, to make sure we are getting back on track and not slipping away, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So in your terms, how does the economy really grows faster, slower? How do you measure that? And how do we convince the people who are depending on that, oh, economy is not doing well, so I am
Yeah.
okay to take my paycheck less. But when the economy is doing well, I need more paycheck. But
Yeah.
how do you draw the line where the economy should be? Because people have been talking one side that, hey, in this period there should not have been increased minimum wage, yet the government started increasing minimum wage, thinking that that's a development and that's the need of the hour. Also, when you are not having a bad year or bad times, then
Mm.
you need more support from certain angle, certain way. But then everybody has got different views, as they say. Somebody wants to tax cut and give and somebody wants to increase the minimum wage and give the money to the people as a.
Yeah.
But what is, in your view, is how do we get the economy fast track back? Or is there any something like that? Oh, this is slow economy, this is fast economy. When people say, what does that mean for common man, basically, for us
Well, I
to?
think to break it down, I think like eventually, like I think it comes down to some like a little bit of like the price level,
Hmm,
because I mean, like you said, increasing the minimum wage or inflation or salary growth. I mean, it's all relative, right? Like you
yeah,
might be earning 15% more, but if everything is costing you 25% more, that
sure,
15% wage growth has actually got no meaning, right?
sure,
Because
sure, sure.
you're actually worse off than before. So I think that's the thing that's actually affecting people. And interesting that you brought up minimum wage as well. And like definitely, like it's
Hmm.
yeah, it's a pretty like hotly debated topic as well.
Yeah,
But I mean, if you think of it logically, minimum wage goes up, right? So everyone who's employed has to be paid more. So in essence, all the businesses have to charge more as well because
yeah,
their
correct.
margin has gone down. So the only way it can sort of reach that equilibrium again is generally put prices up, pay for extra staff costs. So if you're on a minimum wage,
Hmm,
yes, your salary has gone up,
hmm,
but everything's going to cost more as well because your coffee has gone up because they have to pay their staff more. The
hmm.
landlords are going to probably charge more because everything's becoming more expensive. So are you actually better off that way, or actually as a common person, what you should be focused on is, I think, adding some more skills or being a bit more efficient or taking that extra step, up the
Hmm,
ladder so that you get more productive, or you can talk to your boss saying you're actually doing more work, you're taking on more responsibility.
hmm.
So that's the better way to like improve
Yeah.
and go up the ladder rather than just wait for the minimum wage to climb.
Hmm,
Because
hmm.
then, yeah, it,
True,
it
true, true.
yeah. Otherwise, generally, like you find, how often is it that the price only goes up by the minimum wage, right? Usually, some businesses might sneak in an extra bit of profit as well. So
Absolutely.
it's hard to just rely on minimum wage increases. And I mean, definitely, having said that, a lot of employers these days as well, like they actually pay more than minimum wage, right? So
Correct.
that's really good to see that some employers are actually taking it upon themselves these days to say, actually, that's the minimum wage, but these employees are good, we're gonna pay them a living wage. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's again like the small businesses that we need to support, right? Because they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I guess from my experience that I had in the last 6 years, when people start complaining that there were lots of minimum wage increase, which not many people, but the political parties had different views of
Mm-hmm.
reduction and increasing at a certain time at a certain level. So
Yeah.
when we talk about all that, I mean, what I've seen, of course, the 6 years have gone, the minimum wage
Mm-hmm.
has increased, and people are still into that. I mean, they are not complaints or qualms at this point of that aspect. But yes, from a business point of view, the economy that they were thriving at profits, which was before, may have
Yeah.
gone down. And because of no business, also they have suffered and they have closed down their business, what we saw that
Mm-hmm.
just can't afford.
Yeah.
But or having all said done, still the government currently is claiming that they are lowest unemployment rate in the country, in
Yeah.
spite of all of that. Now that's a measurement which again are debatable, that
Yeah. How's it
how does it,
calculated is the main issue there, but yeah.
yeah, how
Yeah.
does it get calculated, all of that.
Yeah. And just sorry, coming back to that, sorry to interrupt, but coming back to that minimum wage thing as well, I think, I
Hmm.
mean, the government does benefit, I think, from raising minimum wage. I mean, if you just really like look at the figures and facts,
Yeah.
leaving aside that, yes, we do need to keep raising minimum wage to meet costs and things like that. But I think if you look at what's happened, just the figures,
Mhm.
minimum wage has gone up, right?
Mhm.
So the price level, everything goes up, but also people who were, say, earning
Mhm.
44,000 a year might be earning 46, 48 now just because of that. And
Mhm.
but the tax brackets haven't changed, or the
Mhm.
tax rates haven't changed, right? So just because people are getting paid more, there's more PAYE being cut from their salaries.
Correct.
Government's take has gone up. So I
Correct.
mean, they kind of benefit from from wages going up
Yeah.
as well, right?
So
So
there
I
is a
mean,
balance
yeah.
of tax as
When
well.
was when was the last time that they actually changed the tax brackets or the tax rates, right? Like I remember like we had the same
Mm-hmm.
categories, like the 48K, 70, 33% tax rate. They've been the same for at least the last sort of 10, 12 years from what I can remember. And
Absolutely.
costs and wages have definitely gone up, right? And like, but they haven't reduced the tax rate
Mm-hmm.
or put the tax brackets up. So in a way, it is kind of a tax hike each year by default anyway, because people are getting more paid more, or inflation is means the economy is at higher. So
Yeah.
that's something that voters need to look at as well. So when some of those tax cuts as such they're saying is, I think it's more like actually just a bit of an adjustment rather than an actual cut,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because if you're saying 7% inflation, 7% wage growth, then
Mm.
the tax brackets kind of need to go up almost 7%, just making it real simple.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in status, in what we are telling and what we understand, that there is not such a real kind of a difference when you need it the most, whether by way
Mm-hmm.
of tax cuts or whether by way of minimum wage. The
Yeah.
inflation and the cost inflation is so much so that
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard for anyone to give full kind of benefits to the common man. It's not going to be too much benefited either this policy or that policy, because ultimately we
Yeah.
do need to meet our day-to-day expenses, and with the current cost of living crisis that we are into,
Mm-hmm.
cost already has gone up so much that even if we get $25 cuts or $50 cuts, it's still, or minimum wage increased, which is still not going to be affordable to pay for the cost that is
Yeah.
already inflated very to the highest level.
Amazing. Yeah, and we can see that as well, right? A lot of people are
Hmm.
previously they were on, I mean, not just minimum wage, but a lot of other people as well who are hardworking on, like,
Yeah. Hmm.
doing in like good jobs that you would normally classify in society as well. Like I've seen a lot of them just having to do a second side hustle just because they're
Hmm.
just saying it's too expensive,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
making ends meet, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
throw in the interest rates that have gone up. That's a different topic altogether.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So there are a lot of ifs and buts, but I
Yeah.
think all the listeners, what we are done today is a little bit of knowledge of economy and how does it affect. But you have mentioned your social policies, environmental policies, which are
Yeah.
also affecting and entangled into economic policies.
Correct.
But then you have also mentioned some of the key as like, investments in healthcare, education, and climate, which when we see that there is a lot of spending, when national says that the current government has spent a lot, or the spending has increased 80%, he was saying the other day, I
Mm-hmm.
listened to it. But to me, there is a question, like spending is also one of the major part of the economy. If you don't spend, then there is no economy. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so spending is not a bad thing, which is what the listeners should also understand.
Exactly.
But whether that spending is put into the right perspective and goes into the right areas where it comes back to you eventually. And
Correct. Yeah.
that's the key thing which I think everybody should understand. The other thing is, yes, everybody wants a tax cuts in the pocket so that they can make a choice of their own to spend where they want to. So that's also a good thing from a tax cut point of view. But then
Correct.
again, how much is the tax cuts that we are going to get to spend, or we are just going to spend by way of giving back to the government as way of tax? That's another thing. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's something very interesting to dwell on.
Yeah.
So, what are
I think
your key?
we'll go into the details if we do like a tax one, like break
Yeah,
it
I
down.
think
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was about
Yeah.
to say that we We will do another episode to all the listeners on the taxation, particularly focused on tax, so that you get a better understanding of when you try to vote. I mean, you need to understand that just because one party is saying we will give you tax, or one party is saying we won't give you tax, but we will give you this way, is actually a more deeper discussion needed for that, to understand what really implies for a common man, because we don't have much choice as a common man to save taxes, but just to pay regularly by default all the taxes without any adjustments. There is no adjustments, I believe, for a common man to do in the tax bracket. So that we will dwell on it. So final point, Abhi, just give us a little bit final message on the economy for all the listeners. What they should be really understand about the economy that we have discussed today, and what's your message final to those listeners, so that when they go to vote, they
Mhm.
should be really concentrating on what are the basic fundamental things that they should understand for our country's economy. Like, we
Yeah.
may do well, we may do not well, others may say, but we all are in the global economy. Our
Mhm.
country is also in the global economy, as the global international countries factors affect.
Yeah.
We well into that international area
Mhm.
as well, on a
Yeah.
topic, but just a simple final message for all the listeners from you, Abhi.
Yeah, I think definitely first thing is make sure that you vote, because whatever your views are, actually make sure you actually go and exercise that right, which you have, and it's also a responsibility. I think we all need to make sure we're doing that before everyone, like, if unless you vote, you shouldn't really complain, right? So
Mm.
make sure we do that regardless of what your views are. And then I think secondly, we have dealt a lot on the economic side of it, but I think also factor in those like social and environmental policies as well, because
Mm.
we need this planet for it to
Yeah,
have an economy. We need, after all, we still eat food, we drink water, we breathe air.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we shouldn't lose fact of those things. So make sure it's also an important part of the government's role, I think, and the social side as well, right? Just having a money rich economy is not the whole and soul. So in
yeah,
that sense, like you mentioned, spending is great, but as a voter, the taxes you're paying, you just want to get the best result possible, right? Or the most sensible result possible. So look into the details of the policies, and yeah, make sure you cast your vote.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
thanks. Lovely
yeah.
speaking with you all. Hopefully we've added something that
Yeah,
some new
hopefully to
things.
all the listeners, we have added some value to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is a good slide you created, and which gives a little basic knowledge from common man's perspective. So, yeah, no, once again, yeah, so you can take off that slide if you want, Avi. But thank you so much once again. And to all the listeners,
Thank you for having me.
as I mentioned, Avi is a chartered accountant and he is a business editor. He has seen lots of businesses grow and he's growing lots of businesses, but also his opinions, suggestions, and as a common man for us, and how he can make a difference to everyone's. It's all required, it's all needed, compliance, governance, but also needed. What you pay taxes is what you get back as well. So don't think that you are paying taxes and you're not getting back. If you're not getting back, please ask those questions, how you can get back and where your money is spent by the government. So you have the right to ask the government where your money is being spent when you pay the money as a way of tax. And we will dwell on the topic tax in the next episode. Till then, I thanks once again for all the listeners to listening to us. But do write to us any questions or any feedback you need, and Abhi will always be there for you to answer your questions with regard to any aspects of taxation, accounting, financial, business advisory services that he conducts. So we will be all happy to make your life a little bit better in terms of understanding and making you understand simple things which needs only a common sense, which I will end up with that. Does that right? Does that make sense, Avi?
Yeah, fantastic. Hopefully, like you said, we've added something to the listeners, and
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for having me and listening to us.
Yeah. Thanks once again. And we will come back once again with our next topic, which is taxation. So wait for our next episode.